What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. Matt here. Happy Wednesday. We're mid-May now, officially. And this week I'm coming at you with a mini episode on something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast. And that is if Broadway should stay on Broadway and stay out of Hollywood. Disclaimer, this episode is going to be based completely on my opinion, not any fact or financial data supporting this, but it's something that's hot in my mind recently because there have been a few Broadway plays that we've discussed this process with. When Brad and I were discussing Spamalot, we were talking about how there were talks about turning Spamalot into a movie, and not sure what exactly that was going to look like, if they were going to film the Broadway version, make an actual movie out of it, which it sounds like it was the latter, and kind of what was impacting that decision, and it got canceled. Brad and I both kind of shared the opinion, especially in the case of Spamalot, that turning that into a movie would have lost a lot of its charm and been a complete waste, because the musical itself, if you're not familiar with Monty Python's Spamalot, is based on Monty Python's The Holy Grail. So then the other musical that we've discussed a lot recently on here has been Mean Girls, the musical, which obviously based on the movie was turned into a musical, and then the Broadway stage musical was turned into a movie. And in that movie, it lost a lot of its charm. It lost a lot of kind of the essence of what made it a musical. It was missing a lot of that musical theater pop and energy in the movie version. Even though Ali Carvalho, Jaquel Spivey, and Renee Rapp all did fantastic in their roles, the movie itself was lackluster because it was missing that experience of Broadway. Now, one of the pros to Broadway plays, especially musicals, being being adapted into a film, into a musical version, is that it makes it a lot more accessible. A lot of these Broadway plays, even when you're looking at touring companies, you are looking at potentially hundreds of dollars for tickets, which is putting it out of reach of certain demographics and just not very convenient or attainable to those who can't make the trip to Broadway. For some of the smaller plays and musicals that don't get off the ground and get a touring company, like A Strange Loop, for example, which starred Jaquel Spivey. It had a bunch of nominations, it didn't have a super long Broadway run or meet a ton of commercial success there. And then there's a lot of people, there is a cast album that a lot of people can connect to it from that, and it makes it slightly accessible. But in these musicals, when you're hearing the songs out of context and you're not getting the emotion and just everything that those actors put into their performances, it's not the same. It's not going to have the same impact, which is something else we've discussed on here quite a bit. And so you lose a lot of that in just the audio cast recordings. Like, it's still fantastic and amazing that we're capturing that moment in time and that Broadway cast or that West End cast or that off-Broadway cast, that we're being able to capture that and have recordings of it and listen to it. So you're still able to experience some of the power of these songs, but you're missing that live theater experience. And a lot of filmed versions, whether it's a movie, whether it's a filmed version of the stage production, it's not the same as being there in the room. So that is something that you're always going to get with live theater, whether it's a local production of it, whether it's a national tour, whether it is on Broadway. Being in the room, getting that energy from the performers, having them feed off the crowd, the reactions, the cheers, and just seeing the dance, the sets, the magic live is always going to be top tier of what it is. That's just straight up how it is. But like I said, with the high prices on Broadway and even on touring companies, a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And so a lot of really great theater gets missed and people miss out. And we started to see a lot more movie adaptations of Broadway plays. And we have Wicked coming up. That's part of why this is haunt my mind because there was a featurette released today, about 3 minutes long, with John M. Chu and the Wicked team release that had primarily John M. Chu, Cynthia Erivo, and Ariana Grande talking about what Wicked means to them and what it means to them being cast in these roles. And so you got to see Cynthia and Ariana's reactions to being told by John M. Chu that they were cast in their respective roles. And that's really cool to see. And I like seeing that behind the scenes too, and seeing that the passion that these actors and performers have for these roles. But I'm still hesitant about what this musical is going to be, where it's getting split into the two parts. And so we're getting more stuff added in. So we're essentially going to have a 4-hour version of a 2.5 hour stage musical, which I've discussed on here before. I'm excited about it. I think we're going to be able to get some more character development from a lot of those that maybe you don't get to see their character shine as much in the musical, or you get to see bits of their motivations play through in song, but it's helpful to see more of that. Like I said, my only caveat is if you're splitting it into two parts, I don't want to see any songs cut. You want to add new ones? Fantastic. Do not cut any of the original ones that made it great. That's my opinion. That's my take on that. And that's why I think a lot of times Rayleigh and I had talked about, and Brad and I had talked about, we gravitate to filmed recordings of a Broadway performance. And I do think that really captures the essence and the nature of those musicals better. Like the Rent Broadway, I think it was like the 10th anniversary, 20th anniversary, something like that. But that they performed with Renee Lee Goldsberry as Mimi, and it's just fantastic cast, and that is so much better to me than the movie adaptation of Rent, even though the movie adaptation has the majority of the original cast in it, which is awesome to see. They water it down because they want to make it more appealing to audiences, and then it loses some of the magic. And yeah, sometimes it seems weird, and it does feel like something's missing when you're watching those filmed Broadway versions at home because you aren't getting that energy from the live performance feeding off the crowd, right? They try to capture it as best they can, and some do it better than others. Like I feel like the filmed adaptation of Hamilton actually does a really good job capturing, making you feel like you're on stage with the actors and also feel like you're in the audience. You're witnessing this. You have the best seats in the house. You're getting to see all the emotion on their faces that you don't get to see when you're clearing back of house balcony. You're going to be missing a lot of those amazing performances that these actors are putting on. And they capture that really well. I feel like the Newsies film Broadway version that's on Disney Plus, I feel like that's really well done as well. And I feel like a recent one, Waitress the Musical, was done really well. Now, there's certain ones that I feel like just seeing a film stage version of it, things that have like larger, grander sets, like Wicked, or even to some extent, lesser extent, Phantom of the Opera. I feel like those just film Broadway ones, besides you getting the performances and you're being able to capture every second of it. You're not cutting everything. You're getting all the songs, all the performances, all the dance numbers, everything in there as it was intended to be seen and originally written. I think that is fantastic. But like Phantom of the Opera and Wicked, where they're on such a large scale, I think they could be more well serviced by having the full movie treatment. Like getting to see those full grand sets in Phantom, I think is fantastic. We've discussed on here Gerard Butler singing, notwithstanding. The musical itself as an adaptation of the stage, I feel like is great. And so I'm hoping that Wicked lives up to it. This cast and crew has such passion and respect for the source material from what I've seen. I have high hopes for it. There's things that still make me nervous, but I am really excited to see what this team and these passionate creators are able to put forth for us to enjoy. Things that I feel like maybe shouldn't, well, I'm going to pause. I'm going to jump back. I'm frazzled this week. It's been one of those weeks. It's been one of those months if you've been a long-time listener. So apologies. Thanks for the patience. This is what you're in for with this podcast, especially the mini episodes with just me. Adapting stage musicals into movies is something that has been going on for forever. It's not just Hollywood trying to capitalize on it now. It was something that was done way back in 70s and before then. Like Cabaret started as a stage musical, then it had the movie musical that had a decent amount of success. And so this is something that's been going on for a long time. And this is where my lack of Broadway historical knowledge, like I said at the beginning, the disclaimer was not backed up by data or supporting. I don't know what kind of box office success Cabaret was. I know it won awards. I know it was very well received. I know even to this day, it's very well received as a movie. But Funny Girl, that started on Broadway, I'm pretty sure. This could be bad if I'm wrong. Maybe I'll do a fact check in the video edit. But that movie, very well received from what I know. And still like holds up as a classic. And so I feel like when they're done well, movie musicals can get so much love and respect. And it comes down to when they have respect for the source material and what's going on there. When things get heavily edited, when they get cut. Like, in my opinion, even though it was almost the exact same creative team behind the Broadway musical, I do not feel like the Mean Girls movie musical really respected the Broadway musical all that much. With how much was cut, the new arrangements, and just sucking all the life, the musical theater life out of it. Can you tell there's something I'm bitter about? Like, I was really excited about it. I really like the Mean Girls musical. And then especially now after seeing it live, it makes me even more disappointed in the movie version. So I've like gone back and forth on Mean Girls, the movie musical, so many times. So apologies. I'm just hot about it. I still have the Mean Girls playbill right up there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it right next to the fuck off sign. But I'm stopping. I'm going back. Musicals that I want to see filmed stage versions of. Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon is one of my favorite musicals, and I want to be able to enjoy that in all of its glory. You can listen to the cast recording, and you get the brilliance behind some of the songs. But what happens between the songs in there and the actors' performances of some of the songs, like in Baptize Me and Hello, the physical aspects of it, it just adds so much to it. And that's something that I want to be captured. And yeah, when you have things that have kind of a scaled back set, it's not going to be the same when you're watching it filmed on Broadway. You're like, I'm watching a movie. You want to see the big grand sets. But Book of Mormon filmed as a movie, I feel like would just be weird. Like everything that goes on with that, it being set in like a real life grounded setting, and then all that going on would just be more off-putting, in my opinion. Like if you do Book of Mormon, it needs to be the film stage version. There's a lot of, the newest thing we've talked about on here, and it's not really that new, it's been going on for a while, turning movies into musicals. And that meets with varying degrees of success. With Heathers and Mean Girls, I think we're both very successful. Back to the Future and Beetlejuice, both have got some pretty positive reviews. Both of those I will be seeing within the next year on the Broadway season tour that's coming to my local theater, but that's where the national tours go. Something like Shrek the Musical, that's something this most recent production has been getting a lot of heat and flack about where they revamped it or devamped it, whatever you want to call it, where they scaled it back, which the creators said they had a mission. They wanted it to feel more like a storybook and like a fairy tale is being told. And so they originally had the majority of the supporting cast, had the black leotards and like a few different accessories behind it. And even like Shrek just had like Shrek ears on his regular hair and his face painted green. And so a lot of people were hating on that. And part of that is what I talked about earlier, the accessibility of these plays. The price point they're looking at this, people are saying, I paid $100 for set design and costumes that are the same I would get if my high school was putting on this production. And a lot of people upset about that. If you've seen like a most viewed video on the YouTube by far is my review of the National Tour of Shrek the Musical. And I went in with very low expectations. I knew what I was getting into. I knew what the costumes looked like. And so I went in with low expectations. I knew nothing about the musical. And the talent of the cast blew me away, and I loved it. And Who I'd Be is still on regular rotation. I fucking love that song. It's so good. And I feel like that set was so distracting to people, and when you spend that much money, especially if you're taking a family to it, like that price point is so hard to swallow. If you're going in, you're looking thinking you're going to get this big spectacle, and you don't. I To me though, when it comes to musicals, the set, it's nice, but the set and the stage production and even the costumes isn't what does it for me. Like, I couldn't care less. It didn't bother me how scaled back the costumes were. Like, I adjusted to it and got used to it because of the music itself and of these performers. That's what I enjoy about the musicals. Now, my wife, on the other hand, different story. She likes the spectacle. She likes the costumes. She likes the dance, the choreography, which is still good. Shrek doesn't have a ton of choreography going on with it, but that, like that spectacle, that's what she really enjoys about it. And I respect it. That's what draws some people to the theater, and that's what they enjoy. Everyone has different reasons for why they go and what they enjoy and what they do. So I can absolutely understand and respect the opinion that I am going to, what was a Broadway musical on tour. I want to see the best of the best, like out here. I want to see top tier sets. I want to be transported into the world of that musical. I absolutely respect that, and I get it. And that's part of where I'm talking about these Broadway shows, and the accessibility of them can be so hard to swallow. And that's where you have that battle and the balance of, do I really want this to be filmed? Do I want this to be more accessible so people can connect to the message of this music? Like Dear Evan Hansen, that's something that I feel like tells a very important story and message. And I am so thankful that it was translated and adapted into a movie, even though I think the movie is inferior to the musical with everything that they cut and some of the missing things. Like Good For You is one of the most powerful songs in that musical, in my opinion. And just with Evan's mom and everything that he's kind of put her through, and just kind of pushing her away and gravitating more towards the Murphys. And so that song is so powerful, with her just not fighting back, because that sounds weird, fighting back to her son, but just kind of having a conversation with him, and just that raw emotion that you're getting out of her. That song, one of my favorites from the soundtrack, cut from the movie. And they translate some into a talking conversation, because when you translate things into the real world, into movies, people having conversations back and forth, just singing, especially angry ones, can just seem off-putting and weird when you're not seeing it on stage. And so I don't know. That's to say, my big question at the beginning of this: should Broadway stay out of Hollywood? I don't know. That's to you to decide. I think it's on a case by case basis. I am never going to say I want less accessibility to Broadway or to musicals in general. I think that different songs, different settings connect with different people in different ways. And that is very important. You never know who could be impacted by what they see or hear. And so I think a lot of these songs and the messages behind them, like You Will Be Found and Waving Through a Window in Dear Evan Hansen, I feel like tell such powerful messages that so many people can relate to and connect to. And in the movie, they actually added a song that I think is another one that is insanely powerful, that can speak to a lot of people, in the anonymous ones. And so I'm all for making musicals more accessible and getting more people's eyes on them. That is to say, I think it's important to not let one take away from the other, right? A lot of people, like for the books to movie thing, people are like, this is one of my favorite books. They ruined it by turning it into a movie. That movie being shit does not negate how good that book was. They can be viewed as two different things. The Mean Girls movie musical being so disappointing, yeah, it upsets me and I wish it were better, but it doesn't take away how much I love the musical, original musical, Broadway musical soundtrack. It doesn't negate from that. Those things can still exist. as their own and as separate entities, and you can enjoy them for what they are. Just because one person likes one better than the other, that doesn't mean their opinion's wrong or yours is right. People have different opinions. We should respect everyone's different opinions, and people have different preferences. Respect that. I think the more that's out there, the better. I said I didn't really have a good answer. It's on case by case basis. I'm going back on it. I'm changing it. That's what we are. We adapt. We listen. I talked myself into this. That I think more musicals should be adapted into movies because I want more accessibility. And I think the importance, though, is that people know if you saw this movie and you loved it, then you should absolutely go see live theater and support live theater. Because if you love that movie, chances are you're going to love this live performance so much more. I was talking about my wife really likes the spectacle and the costumes and the dancing. Everything like that is what drives her. The singing itself and the music itself, she can really care less about. Not a huge musical person. And so we watched the filmed version of Hamilton. She was not really a fan. I get that. I respect that. Not for everyone. People have differences. Sitting there on your couch watching these people perform on stage, it's not going to impact you the same. When we went to go see it live, she absolutely loved it and wanted to go see it the next time it was here and take her parents to go see it. So different people like different things are impacted in different ways. We should respect that. Make musicals more mainstream. The thing that sucks is the majority of the time they are not successful in the box office. And so that's where I think that maybe one of the better options is to do the filming of the stage Broadway version, which can still be expensive. I'm not saying it's not, but it is a lot lower cost investment and it could be more accessible in like streaming. Like Heather's the musical they filmed for Roku and put on there, so you can watch it there. That I didn't like 'cause the crowd is distracting at points during it. But like Waitress the musical, it opened limited in theaters as Fathom events, and they kept adding more show times because it was constantly selling out screenings, packed, more people clamoring for it, and it had a ton of success. And that was a filmed stage version. Now, you had a mainstream star and Sarah Bareilles in there, so that's a little bit different. It's not what you're going to get all the time, but it's great. We have so many streaming platforms now that you can make these movies happen. You can do it on a lower budget. You can make it where it's accessible to millions of people and open up a whole new audience. And you never know who it's going to connect with, who it's going to impact, and who's just going to come away from it wanting to know more about musical theater and love it. So my answer is I do not think that Broadway should stay out of Hollywood. I think we should get more Broadway in Hollywood now. More Hollywood and Broadway. It's another debate. If everything's good there, maybe that's a future mini episode. Who knows? But I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed my 20-minute ramble about this. You guys rock. The audience has been continuing to grow. Been getting more subscribers on YouTube. Thank you to those who have interacted and sent us ideas. I do have a winner for I did say I was going to do a giveaway for people who gave us suggestions, and if we use them, they would get a gift card. And so Charlene had followed on YouTube, messaged on Instagram. The suggestion was to do some more Disney musicals. A specific suggestion was Beauty and the Beast. I don't think we're going to do Beauty and the Beast right away, but we are going to take the suggestion of doing more movie musicals. And next month, so this month, Brad and I are going to discuss Waitress musical, the recording of that, which you can rent it digitally on Vudu. Vudu is now Fandango at home. You can rent it there, Amazon Prime, I think even on YouTube you can rent it. Make sure it's Waitress the musical, not the original Waitress movie with Kerry Russell. But that is only available to rent and buy. It's not streaming anywhere. You can listen to the album as well of the musical. It's great. Sarah Bareilles was great in it. Brad and I will be discussing that. And then next month, Brad and I will be discussing a movie musical TBD, one that's streaming on Disney Plus. So stay tuned for that announcement, what we will discuss. Charlene and I will be in touch on Instagram, give that gift card because I'm a man of my word. So thank you all. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for listening. My allergies have been kicking my ass lately, so apologies. I know it's probably not as fun to listen to. And the last few episodes, I need to get it worked out. The audio has not been up to the standards I hold myself, and it's driving myself crazy. But since I'm not an audio engineer, I've been dealing with some tight turnarounds just because life has been crazy. I have not been able to make it perfect. So apologies, and thank you to those who have suffered through the audio issues and in not being tip-top shape. So I will be working on that. Love you all. Thank you. Continue to like, follow, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It means the world to me. Appreciate you all. Thanks for listening, watching. Have a great rest of your May. See y'all next week, and don't forget to go down once more. Later.